Hi, my name is Rich, and I'm 65 years old, and a lot of my friends, well, they smoked, and I hate to say it, but they're not here anymore. And I have some friends that really enjoyed food, and it's taxed their heart so much that they're either in bad shape or they're already gone. I want to tell you a little story, but first I want to ask you, are you ready for a change? Are you ready to change? Let me tell you a story about Mel Zuckerman. He was a home builder out in Tucson, Arizona back in the 60s and 70s. He worked hard, and in the boom times when the economy was good, his business was good. And then when it wasn't so good, neither was his business, and it was very stressful work. But he'd work early in the morning to late in the evenings, and he wanted just to come home and sit in front of the TV and just zone out, just relax. One of his drugs of choice was Rocky Road ice cream. He said that he'd get a whole bunch of half-gallon Rocky Road ice creams and put it in his freezer, and when he'd come home in the evening, he'd get out one of those half-gallons with a spoon, and he would sit back in his chair and eat the Rocky Road ice cream. He said that the TV programs seemed like they were better eating the Rocky Road. And he'd get about 2/3 down on the Rocky Road, about 2/3 eaten, and he'd tell himself, "You're not going to eat all this in one sitting, are you?" And he'd put the lid on it, and he'd put it back in the freezer and go to bed. About 2 o'clock in the morning, he'd get up, go to the freezer, get that carton out, and clean it up. He said, well, after all, it was a new day. And this went on for day after year after year. When he was 40, his blood pressure was skyrocketing. His cholesterol was out of control. He was 50 pounds overweight, and he had asthma. Now, when he was 8 years old, the doctor told his mom, don't let him exercise, don't let him play sports, it'll probably make him sick. So he didn't exercise. So we went to the doctor, and the doctor had a lot of concern for him, and he said, Mel, we're having a study, a national study. It's going to be free. And we're going to take battery of tests on different people to see what their body's age is. Not their chronological age, but their body's age. And I'd like for you to be part of this test. And Mel agreed, and so he would go up to the doctor's office for various tests one day and another day and another day, and just so many tests on him. And then he had to wait weeks for results. And the phone call rang, and it was the doctor, and he said, Mel, I've got some good news, and I've got some bad news. The good news is that there isn't anything that we didn't already know that you have. The bad news is you have a body of a 65 to 70-year-old man. Mel couldn't believe it. He was 40 years old. He thought maybe the worst would be 45 or maybe the most 50, but 65 to 70? Well, Mel's decided, I'm going to lose some weight. I'm going to lose some weight. So he started on a crash diet of some sort, and he lost some weight. And then there was Rocky Road, and he gained the weight. And then he lose some more weight, and then Rocky Road. And this went on for several years, fighting this battle with his weight. And then in 1977, his dad was 75, and he had a cough, and they asked him to go to the doctor. He didn't want to go to the doctor, but he kept on getting worse and worse, and finally he did go to the doctor. The doctor called the family in and said that Mel's dad had about 6 months to live. He had incurable, inoperable lung cancer. When Mel's dad heard this, he's a 2-pack of Camel a day smoker. He smoked for decades, and he took out the cigarette package out of pocket. He threw it across the desk of the doctor's office, and he said, "I'm never going to smoke another cigarette in my life." And he didn't. He was true to his word, but that didn't help him any. And sure enough, about 6 months later, his dad did die. But Mel looked back, and the last few months when he was talking to his dad would say, "If only I had never smoked. If only I had quit. You knew I tried to quit. You know I tried to quit several times. If only I had just quit." And Mel realized that his dad had regrets about his habit, his smoking. And Mel didn't want to have regrets when he died of his physical being. And he started talking to his wife about that. He made a choice. At that time, he wanted to change. So his wife, Enid, found a place out in California. It was called the Oaks. Now, this was a Spartan place. They would eat a 1,000-calorie diet a day, and they work out, and you lose a lot of weight. And a lot of times back in those days, they'd call them fat farms. So Edith drove Mel, just in case he might have changed or turned around. She drove him to the Oaks. And there was orientation, and he was sitting there. There was Mel, and then there was 12 women. The person giving the orientation was a lady named Karma. And after the orientation, she went over to Mel and says, "Well, what are you here for?" And Mel started talking to her and telling her that, well, he's always struggled with his weight, and his dad passed away. Well, really told her his life story. And she said, "I'm going to work with you personally." So the next morning at 7 o'clock, she said, "Come on, Mel, we're going for a 1.5 mile walk." And he said, "I can't walk 1.5 miles. "Yes, you can." "No, I can't." "Yes, you can." "No, I can't." And he said, every time I said something negative that I couldn't, she came back with a positive response that I could. So we started walking, he said, and we walked a mile. He started walking, and then they sat down. And then he walked, and they sat down. And then he walked, and then they sat down. They walked 1.5 miles in 37.5 minutes. Now, Mel's age was 49 at that time. 49 years old. And the people his age, he was at the lower 2%. 2% of people that could walk that distance in such a long period of time. But Karma kept on coming through, and every day, twice a day, they would go exercise and walk. By the end of 10 days, Mel was walking the 1.5 mile in 11 minutes and 37 seconds. That was an 8-minute mile. He was excited. Mel, the boy that couldn't exercise, Mel, the boy that couldn't play sports, he was so pumped up he called Edith and said, "Edith, I'm going to be here a little while longer." And I want to read you what Mel said. "I wound up spending 4 weeks at the Oaks and losing a total of 29 pounds. By the end of my stay, I was jogging 3 miles every single day. But it wasn't just my body that had changed. My spirit was different too. It was like a light bulb going off in my consciousness. A flash when I realized that my life could be better and that I had the power." Notice he said, that I had the power to make the lasting change. Having an aha moment is both thrilling and terrifying, because at the end of it, you understand that the decision to change course is yours, and yours alone. When Mel got home, he said, I don't want to be a home builder anymore. And Enid had suggested that they build a spa a couple of years earlier, but he didn't want to then. But now he says, I want to build a spa. But this way, I don't want it to be Spartan. I want to be luxurious. I want a place not only working with the body, but the mind and the spirit. I want it to be the wholeness and well-being of a person. And so in 1979, they built the Canyon Ranch Spa. And since then, hundreds, thousands of people from all over the United States, from all over the world, has come there. They've done quite well. At 65 years old, Mel went to university, and he had a battery of tests done, similar to what he had when he was about 40. He came up with a conclusion from all the tests. He was 65 years old, that he had a body of a 45 to 50-year-old man. Mel's now 85 years old and doing quite well. And one of the good sayings that he has, I'd like everyone to die young, later on in life. The question is, are you ready to make a change? You can do it.